Welcome and thank you for standing by. Parties will be in a listen-only mode for the duration of today's call. Now I will turn the meeting over to Mr. Matt McCorkle. Sir, you may begin.
Thank you. Good morning or afternoon, everyone, depending on where you're coming from. Thank you for joining us for a Visits and Meetings in the NISP What's New webinar. I'm glad that each of you took the time out this morning or this afternoon to join us for our first webinar of the fiscal year. Hopefully when we're finished here today, you'll be more educated on visits and meetings, and you'll be excited to take our updated e-learning course. But before we jump into our webinar, let's get some of our administrative housekeeping out of the way. We'll start out with our introductions. I'm Matt McCorkle, the course manager for Visits and Meetings in the NISP and instructor here at CDSE, and I'm one of your presenters for today's webinar. With me in our studio is in Linthicum, Maryland, is our second presenter, Renee King, Acting Curriculum Manager for Industrial Security. I'm sure most of you know her from the Getting Started seminars and NCMS conferences, so we're very fortunate that she's with us today. Renee will be leading you through several poll questions and chat questions that we've incorporated into the webinar. Also in the studio is our very own webinar guru, Nancy McEwen. Nancy will be working through our Adobe Connect to ensure that everything goes smoothly and that you can stay connected with us. But last but not least is our talented producer, Steve Ransdell. Steve will not only be working behind the scenes to make sure that we stay on track and on time, but he's also going to provide a few basic instructions on the tools that you're going to need to maximize your webinar experience here today. Steve, they're all yours.
Thank you, Matt. To begin, let's just walk through a couple of orientation pieces so you know where things are within the Adobe Connect window. First of all, you can see the young model here is pointing down to our file share pod. In that pod, you will find the slides for today's presentation, as well as an electronic copy of the NISPOM. You can download those and save them locally to your computer and have them for future reference. They will be available also within the recording of this webinar that will be published after we're done. Next up, you'll notice in the box below the young lady there, a closed captioning. When we do provide live closed captioning, we have a talented captioner typing everything that we say as we say it, or at least as well as they can understand our acronyms and unusual words. So you can see the instructions for turning the closed captioning off in the audio box, which we'll talk about next. So if you don't want the closed captioning, you can turn it off. The Notes and Announcements box, which is down in the lower right-hand corner, labeled Audio and CC. That is a scrollable box, so I assume you don't need the audio information if you're already listening to me, but the instructions for turning off the closed captioning is found there. To the right of the screen, we have a Q&A pod. You can use this to type any questions you might have for the instructors or presenters, and they will read them and try to respond either live or after the fact. This box will also be used, be replaced actually with a chat window for one of our chat questions, which will allow everyone to see what you type as you answer a question. We will have a couple of poll questions. They will come up and be moved into the center of your screen. You'll see them. You have the opportunity to answer yes or no. You can have to select one or the other. And one of our questions has a select all that apply. You can select multiple answers in that particular window. That should be the tour. Matt, back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. Thank you. Well, I think it's time to dig into today's topic, Visits and Meetings in the NISP, What's New? The big thing is the reason why we wanted to do this webinar was to just let you know what's new with our course. Nothing really changed in the NISPOM. Nothing has changed since Change 2 that came out in May 2016. But what's new with what's going on here at CDSE? That's what we wanted your attention. What's new with our course? Why do we change it? And those are some things that we're going to talk about today. But we're going to hit the beans and bullets of what a meeting is and what a visit is. So as a facility security officer or a FSO, this is one of your primary responsibilities according to the National Industrial Security Program Manual, or better known as the NISPOM. And it's an important part of the National Industrial Security Program, or simply the NISP. So let's start with a poll question, shall we, Renee?
Thanks, Matt. Our first poll question for this webinar session is, have you ever participated in a classified visit or meeting? Wow, those numbers are fast, 100% already. We're moving. Okay, we got a lot of votes in.
Yeah, good.
So it looks like, Matt, the majority of the folks said they have, so that's good. That's good. Maybe we'll see some questions if there's any individuals who actually need a little bit more information in regards to visits and meetings.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Renee. Thank you guys for participating in that. Well, as the title says, we're going to be discussing visits and meetings in the NISP. This is a requirement that not only FSOs per the NISPOM have to abide by, but also government security managers have to abide by it as well. But let's take a look at what the NISPOM defines as a meeting and as a visit. So before we actually dive into the book answer, Renee, can we get some brainwaves kicked in with maybe a chat question?
Sure, Matt, no problem. Let's see, our first chat question is, what is a classified meeting? So what I need you to do is go ahead and put your responses in the chat box that is waiting for you to the right of the question.
It's actually, yeah, classified visit, and right there where it says chat 24, everybody, there we go. Yeah, classified visit, yep. Thank you.
So I see a lot of typing going on. Just waiting to see some of those responses. So Maria said it is a meeting, a discussion where classified information is discussed. Okay, a visit that includes the discussion of classified material. Let's see.
Sarah says a visit that requires a PCL at a designated level dependent on the type of information being shared. Awesome.
Meeting requiring access to classified information. Matt, it looks like they're all, you know, hitting it right there on the nail on the head.
Awesome. Yeah, I think so too. I think they have the purpose understood. So let's see what the NISPOM states. Really good responses. Let's get right into Chapter 6 of the NISPOM, where it spells out what visits and meetings are. So a classified visit states that it's a visit during which a visitor will require or is expected to require access to classified information. If we dig a little bit deeper in 6101, it talks about the number of classified visits shall be held to a minimum. The contractor must determine that the visit is necessary and that the purpose of the visit cannot be achieved without access to or disclosure of classified information. Contractor shall establish procedures to ensure positive identification of visitors, the appropriate PCL level, and the need to know prior to disclosure of any classified information. It also states that contractors shall establish procedures to ensure that visitors are only afforded access to classified information consistent with the purpose of the visit. Okay, so let's take a little bit deeper dive on that, on some additional information required for visits. In 6102, it states that the need to know determination is the responsibility in connection with classified visits rests on the individual who's going to disclose that classified information during the visit. Need to know is generally based on a contractual relationship between the contractors, so it could be prime to subs, or it can be multiple subcontractors or multiple contractors working on the same program coming together. But in other circumstances, disclosure of the information will be based on an assessment that the receiving contractor has a bona fide need to the access of the information in furtherance of a GCA purpose. So it has to satisfy that purpose of what the GCA is requiring as well. 6104 states that if a visit requires access to classified information, then the host contractor shall verify the visitor's PCL level. Verification of a PCL may be accomplished by a review of a CSA designated database that contains the information, or by a visit authorization letter provided by the visitor's employee. Okay, you'll notice in our course, and we're going to talk about it later, we made a lot of changes, and if you're new to the FSO curriculum, you might have seen the terminology already as far as DoD system of record or approved government system of record. Those were all designed that as we progress with our courses and update our courses with the changes of JPAS and EFCL and ISFD and all those different programs that are out there, when they're going away, our courses are still going to be relevant because we're referencing those CSA designated databases. Okay. So a little bit deeper dive. Let's talk about long-term visitors for just a minute. Okay. When a government employee or employee on one contract are temporarily stationed at another contractor's facility, the security procedures of that long-term visitor, they still fall under the host contractor. The host contractor will still govern those security procedures. Government personnel assigned to or visiting a contractor facility and engaged in oversight of an acquisition program shall retain control of their work product. Classified work products of government employees shall be handled in accordance with the NISPOM. Contractor procedures shall not require government employees to relinquish control of their work products, whether classified or not, to a contractor. Okay? So what that is basically saying is that the oversight of an acquisition program, that visiting contractor facility will retain the control of that work product. Some more on long-term visitors is the contract employees at a government site must follow the host security requirements. So the government contractor employees at government installations will follow those security requirements of the host. So if it's on a military installation, typically that's going to fall under the installation security programs. And if it's at a facility, then it's going to be the requirements of the host, and it's going to have that government oversight. But the the FSO security program is what's going to dictate that. This doesn't relieve the contractor from security oversight from their employees who are long-term visitors at government installations. So if you're an FSO and you have a lot of cleared employees that are working on a government installation, then you still have cognizance of what those security requirements are on that installation. Wow, that was a lot of information about visits. I wish we could take a break, but that was a mouthful. We need to shift into meetings now. So Renee, could you get them motivated with the next chat question?
Sure.
Or it's actually a poll question.
No problem, Matt.
Thanks.
So for our first poll question, or our second poll question, I should say, which of these will be considered a classified meeting under the NISPOM? So select all that apply. Okay, I see you guys are working. All right, you're doing good.
It looks like several people are marking more than just one answer, which is awesome.
Yep. All right, Matt.
Awesome. Awesome job. Thanks, Renee.
No
So Chapter 6, meetings. If you open up 6200 under the general section there, it states that this section applies to a conference, seminar, symposium, exhibit, convention, training course, or other such gathering during which classified information is going to be disclosed. The NISPOM states hereafter such things will be called a meeting. So let's talk about meetings, government sponsorship of meeting. This is a big one. So 6201 in the NISPOM clearly states that government will sponsor meetings. Disclosure of classified information to large, diverse audiences, such as conferences, increase security risks. However, classified disclosure at these meetings, which serve a government purpose, at which adequate security measures have been provided in advance, may be conducted by a cleared contractor, provided the meeting is authorized by a government agency, and that government agency has agreed to assume security jurisdiction. So that's a big difference between a visit and a meeting. The government agency must approve the security arrangements, announcements, attendees, and the location of the meeting. So if you think about it in that aspect, typically your meetings are going to be planned out longer, your symposiums, your conferences, those security NCMS meetings or whatever. Anything where this is going to take place is going to need prior written authorization, and it's going to need a lot more moving parts and a lot more approval. But the government agency will have jurisdiction, the security jurisdiction over this. However, that doesn't mean that if you keep reading the NISPOM, it states the government agency may delegate certain responsibilities to a cleared contractor for the security arrangements and other actions necessary for the meeting under the general supervision of the government agency. So basically, they can delegate, but they're also the approval, the governing approval on that. So let's talk a little bit more in that Chapter 6, the request for authorizations. Contractors wishing to conduct meetings requiring sponsorship must submit requests to the government agency with these principal interests. All right, there needs to be an explanation of the purpose, of the government purpose, and why other channels of release of information will not advance these interests. Subject of meeting and scope of classified topics are to be disclosed, need to be approved and prior approved. Expected dates and locations of the meeting. Physical contact of the proposed announcement and or invitation, the general content of the proposed announcement, the identity of any other non-government organizations involved, and a full description of the type of support that it will provide. So it's just not some random invite going out to whoever. There has to be a specific purpose behind it. And the description of the security arrangements necessary for this meeting. So the locations of the meetings. These meetings, classified meetings, will only be held at a federal government installation or at a cleared contractor facility where adequate physical security and procedural controls have been approved. The authorizing government agency is responsible for evaluating and approving the location proposed for the meeting. Some security arrangements for the meeting. The contractor must develop the security procedures to be used and obtain authorizing agency's approval. So the security arrangements must provide for the following announcements. Approval of the authorizing agency shall be obtained for all announcements of the meeting. Announcements shall be unclassified, and they shall be limited to a general description of the topics expected to be presented, names of speakers, any administrative instructives for requesting invitations or participation. Classified presentations shall not be solicited in the announcement. And when the meeting has been approved, announcements may only state that the government agency has authorized the conduct of classified sessions and will provide necessary security assistance. All of this is like right clearly black and white in the NISPOM. Okay. Clearance and need to know. All persons in attendance at these classified sessions shall possess the right clearance level. They need to have the need to know for the information specifically that's going to be disclosed. That need to know shall be determined by the authorizing agency or its designee based on the justification provided. So as if you're hosting one of these, you just have to have a really good justification of why you want the audience that you want. Okay. Chapter 6, 202, the disclosure authority at meetings. The contractor desiring to disclose the classified information at a meeting shall, first off, obtain prior written authorization for each proposed disclosure of classified information from the government agency having jurisdiction over the information involved. They shall also furnish a copy of the disclosure authorization to the government agency sponsoring the meeting. And associations are not responsible, I say again, associations are not responsible for ensuring that classified presentations and papers of the other organizations have been approved for disclosure. Okay. The authority to disclose classified information at meetings, whether disclosure is by officials of industry or government, must be granted by the government agency or activity that has classification jurisdiction over the information that's going to be disclosed. So what does that mean? It means the authority to disclose the classified information is going to be, whether it comes from industry or government, the governing body really at that is going to be the government agency that has the jurisdiction over that information. So it could be the customer or the project program managers. So let's talk about the request to attend classified meetings. Before a contractor can attend a classified meeting, the contractor shall provide the justification why the employee requires that access to the information, cite the classified contract or the GCA program or project involved, and forward that information to the authorizing government agency. So it could be as simple as, this engineer works specifically on this part of this program, and they need to understand that there's a need to know there. That could be the simple justification. But it's just that this is putting in protections where we're just not offering information to somebody that's curious or maybe not working on that project or it doesn't touch them in some way. So this is like it said at the very beginning. There's a lot more security concerns here with a classified meeting at a big symposium or seminar or workshop or something like that versus just having a visit at your facility with a few people that are coming in to get briefed on some classified information. So I know that the NISPOM defines and outlines as compliance standards. I know it's a lot, and I know that it spells it out black and white, and it can be very clear, but it can also be very confusing if you're mixing the two up between a classified visit and a classified meeting. Wow, mouthful. I think now would be another good time for another poll question. What do you think, Renee?
I think so too, Matt. Let's see.
Right.
Our poll question is, did you know that CDSE visits and meetings in this course have been updated? Okay. So it looks like the majority of the folks didn't even know that we had updated it, Matt. So then this webinar is very beneficial to let them know that we actually did some updating on that course.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. Yeah, it looks like 85% didn't know. So let's go to our next slide, Steve, if you would, please. Here it is. Visits and meetings in the NISP. Industrial Security 105.16 is the course. It's live now. We spent about about maybe 14 months, 16 months developing a new product. The former curriculum manager, Chris Beauregard, before she retired, she brought some good points about what industry was saying about this course. It's part of the curriculum for an FSO, whether it be possessing or non-possessing. There was a lot of talk about the old course just kind of seemed like visits and meetings kind of merged together. A lot of gray area, and it was outdated. It was there were a lot of outdated graphics and terminologies and things like that. So we decided that it would be a really good idea to make this a new, fresh course. So about that time, then Renee came on board, and we got together and we brainstormed, and we think that we have come up with a really good course that provides distinction between visits and meetings. It is clearly about the removal, whether or not we're using JPass or DISS, whatever's coming down the line, that the course will stay valid and relevant for a little while. We believe that it has a better course flow. What do you think, Renee? What are your thoughts on this as well?
Thanks, Matt. Well, as you said, we did a little updating of it, and we made sure that we were changing that verbiage of, say, JPAS and EFCL, those type things, to be generic, simply government system of record in some situations. So we wanted to change the look of it, delete a few of the animations there and just make it a clean product. And I think we did that, Matt. I think we accomplished that.
I think so too. There are a lot of beta testing and a lot of input from a lot of people here at CDSE, but we also brought in audience from outside in industry to check it out as well, and I think it's a really good product. So, well, here's where we can find it at through our CDSE EDU website, or you can go directly to the link that you see below. All right, and to wrap visits and meetings in the NISP, what's new? The NISPOM hasn't, the definitions of visit and meeting is not new, but the way that this course was delivered, the importance of how many people out there in industry or in government just kind of randomly throw around words like visits and meetings and don't understand the clear definition between the two. So we discussed some of the changes and why we made those changes. So feel free to let us know what you think about after completing it. Hopefully you're excited to take the new course. If you haven't seen that in a while because you've been in FSO for a while, then it'd be great to get back in there and just see, give us some feedback of what you guys think. Renee, do you have anything else to add?
No, just to, not much, Matt, just one thing, just make sure that when you're out there on the site, when you're in the course, yeah, please provide us with some feedback and let us know what you think. We're very interested in always knowing what the student is thinking about our various courses. So we appreciate it if you just shared, your thoughts about the course with us.
Cool. Thanks, Renee. Well, we just had a question roll in. The question is, what does shall be held to a minimum mean in regards to a classified meeting? I would say it's a judgment call. Like I wouldn't just say or send out an invite saying, hey, we're going to have a classified meeting every week to discuss the aspects of our classified information or project or whatever every week just to make it consistent on a calendar. It should only be when necessary. But if a weekly meeting to discuss this is necessary, then just be able to justify it. I hope that kind of helps. And then, Renee, there's another question that just came in.
Yeah, Matt, it says that, what's the difference between a classified meeting and a classified visit? You want to tackle that one?
Yeah, sure. Well, we kind of discussed what the NISPOM lays out, but one of the definitions that if you look in some of the definitions that we use throughout a lot of our courses, this is the book answer now. A classified meeting applies to a conference, seminar, symposium, exhibit, training course, or any other such gathering to where classified information is going to be disclosed. Okay, so that's classified meeting. What does it really mean? I think a meeting is more of if you think of it as an outgoing thing where you're sending cleared people to a seminar, symposium, or conference or whatever. You're sending a lot of people out to some like a bigger event, but don't get locked into that because it doesn't necessarily what if you're that facility that's hosting that, then you would have some oversight of what's going on at that facility for that meeting. But the big difference is that your GCA would still have jurisdiction over it. So it's a distinct difference whether people are coming into your facility or you're sending people out. There's a distinct difference because the GCA has that authority. They have that jurisdiction, and everything pretty much needs to be approved by them. However, they can delegate certain things back to that facility or those organizations for security procedures. As far as a visit, well, the definition of visit is this section applies when, for a lawful and authorized U.S. government purpose, it is anticipated that classified information will be disclosed during a visit to a cleared contractor or to a federal facility. I like to think of visits as something that your facility or another facility is hosting. There will be visitors coming in to discuss things about projects or contracts that have classified topics, but you're hosting it, and it's basically incoming personnel into your facility, and the NISPOM is what's going to dictate that you need to provide the proper security measures for it, and that you should do it responsibly. Don't have them just because you can. Do them when they need to be met, and just have proper justification for it. So I hope that helps with the book definition, if you will. I'm looking at the clock right now. I wish we had more time to sit and chat with you. If you have any more questions, if you put them in the Q&A pod up there, we will get back to you and actually respond to those in Adobe Connect in the next week or so. They should be all posted up there. We'll collect all those and we'll put them on the archive. All right. Also, if you have any other questions for us, don't hesitate to send an email to the address that you see above. Miss Renee King, the curriculum manager here, awesome. And she's a very busy lady. She has a ton of courses and stuff like that. But if you have other questions, send it to the Industrial Security mailbox. The beauty of the mailbox is that it's being monitored every 24 hours. We have, every day it's being monitored by somebody here on our industrial security team. And if it's questions about anything other than industrial security, we can get it to the right people. So if it's personnel or physical or general security, we can push those emails out to other people and get that feedback for you. So you should see a survey appear on your screen. Once you see that, just follow the prompts and answer the questions before you log out today. It should only take you a few minutes, and it's very brief. But the information that you provide is invaluable to our continued success for our webinars. Special thanks to Renee and Steve and Nancy for making this webinar possible today. And a very, very special thanks to you guys for taking your time to attend this webinar and providing your feedback. These webinars really are a great training opportunity, and we're so glad that you can take advantage of them. Make today great. One of our previous curriculum manager, Chris Beauregard, would often lead these webinars, and she would say, don't ever miss an opportunity to learn at lunch. Hope to see you guys next time. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes today's conference. You may disconnect at this time.